The battle for Earth lasted 3 days. When it ended, the space around the blue planet was filled with debris from destroyed ships. The Duraxian fleet, once the pride of the Council, was defeated. Supreme Commander Jarek himself had been captured when Admiral Harrison's forces boarded the Eternal Flame. 2 weeks later, representatives from 27 species gathered on a neutral space station. Humans, former Council members, and previously oppressed species all came together to decide the future of galactic governance. Captain John Miller, who had survived years of imprisonment during the conflict, stood as Earth's main representative. It seemed fitting that the man who had first met the Council would now help shape what would replace it. The old Council system failed because it was built on fear and control, John said to the gathered delegates. Any new system must be founded on respect and cooperation. The Veldari representative, Celia, spoke next. We agree. The 7 founding species of the Council held too much power for too long. All voices must be heard equally. Over the next several days, the framework for a new galactic confederation took shape. Unlike the old Council, each member species would have equal representation. Military forces would be mainly defensive and controlled by civilian leadership. No single species could impose its will on others. What of the Duraxians and their allies? Asked a representative from one of the smaller species. They still pose a threat. John looked at the Celti representative, who had emerged as a strong voice for the former oppressed species. Justice, not revenge, John said. They must make reparations for the damage they've caused, but we won't become what we fought against. The Duraxian territories were placed under temporary Confederation oversight. Their military was disbanded, and Supreme Commander Jorek would face trial for war crimes. The hegemony, seeing the Duraxian defeat, quickly agreed to the new terms to avoid a similar fate. 1 month after the Battle of Earth, the formal signing ceremony for the Galactic Confederation Charter took place. Former enemies and new allies gathered in a great hall built specifically for the occasion. As Captain Miller signed the document on behalf of humanity, he couldn't help but remember that first meeting with the Council 5 years earlier. How condescending they had been, how certain of their superiority. The Council thought they knew what humanity was, he said in his address after the signing. They saw our history of conflicts and judged us as violent and dangerous. What they failed to understand was that our capacity for war is matched by our desire for peace. We fight fiercely when provoked, but we prefer cooperation when given the choice. After the ceremony, Admiral Harrison and Ambassador Peterson stood together, watching the celebrations. Do you think it will last? Peterson asked. Harrison nodded slowly. I believe it will. The Council ruled through fear for centuries. Fear eventually breeds rebellion. The Confederation is built on mutual respect and benefit. It's a stronger foundation. The former Council worlds that had attacked human colonies were required to pay significant reparations. These resources went to rebuilding the devastated settlements on Wolf 359, Proxima Centauri, and Ta Ceti. On Earth, a memorial was built to honor those who had died in what became known as the Liberation War. A simple stone monument carried the names of the fallen with an inscription that read, "They crossed the line. We ensured they would never do so again." In the years that followed, humanity's influence grew throughout the Confederation. Their adaptability, creativity, and determination, the very qualities the Council had feared, became valued throughout the galaxy. Human innovations helped solve problems that had plagued other species for generations. Captain Miller, now serving as Earth's permanent ambassador to the Confederation, often reflected on how differently things might have gone if the Council had chosen cooperation instead of control from the beginning. The Council's greatest mistake, he wrote in his memoirs, was not recognizing that humanity's greatest strength isn't our capacity for war, but our ability to forge peace even after the most bitter conflicts. They crossed a line, thinking we would break. Instead, we remade the galaxy. Warning signals blared throughout Earth's defense network. The long-range sensors had detected a massive fleet approaching the edge of the solar system. 317 ships, reported the sensor officer at Earth Defense Command, matching known Duraxian designs. They'll reach Pluto's orbit in 6 hours. Admiral Nicole Harrison stood before the large tactical display, her face calm despite the gravity of the situation. Deploy the home fleet. Activate all orbital defense platforms. Alert the Mars and Luna bases to prepare for possible action. Throughout the solar system, humanity's final line of defense moved into position. 50 warships took up formation around Earth. Another 30 positioned themselves near Mars. Hidden weapons platforms, built into asteroids and small moons, powered up for the first time. Supreme Commander Jarek stood on the bridge of the Duraxian flagship, the Eternal Flame Asterisk. The massive dreadnought was the pride of the Duraxian fleet, nearly twice the size of any human vessel. The humans have deployed their defenses, his second-in-command reported. Their fleet is smaller than anticipated. Jarek's scaled lips curved into what passed for a smile among his kind. As expected, their victories were lucky strikes against unprepared targets. Now they faced the full might of the Duraxian Empire. As the Duraxian fleet crossed Neptune's orbit, they detected no resistance. When they passed Uranus, still nothing. It was only as they approached Saturn that the first human response came. Suddenly, dozens of small objects detached from Saturn's rings. They accelerated toward the Duraxian fleet at incredible speed. "Mines," shouted a Duraxian officer, but it was too late. The specially designed devices attached to the hulls of 20 Duraxian ships and detonated. The explosions were small but precisely targeted, disabling engines and weapons systems. "A minor setback," Jarek declared. "Continue the advance." Between Saturn and Jupiter, they encountered the first human warships. Not the main fleet, but a squadron of fast attack vessels that darted in, fired, and retreated before the larger Duraxian ships could respond effectively. "They're trying to slow us down," Jarek realized. "Press forward. Earth is our target." On Earth, civilian scientists led by Dr. Jason Cooper worked frantically in a heavily guarded facility. "The disruptor is ready," Jason announced to Admiral Harrison over a secure channel. "But it's untested at this scale. We don't know how long the effect will last." "Even a few minutes could make the difference," the Admiral replied. "Deploy when they reach Mars orbit." In space, the first major clash occurred near Mars. 30 human ships engaged a section of the Duraxian fleet. The battle was fierce, with losses on both sides. "Their weapons are more powerful than our intelligence suggested," a Duraxian commander reported to Jarek. "They are still outnumbered," Jarek replied dismissively. "Continue the advance." As the main Duraxian fleet approached Earth, they were met by the full human defense force. Admiral Harrison commanded from her flagship Vengeance *. "All ships, engage as planned," she ordered. "Defense platforms, hold fire until the enemy is within optimal range." The space around Earth lit up with weapons fire. Human ships, though outnumbered, fought with unexpected tactics that confused the Duraxian commanders. On the ground, Sergeant Mike Russell led defense forces against Duraxian landing parties that managed to reach Earth's surface. The fighting was close and brutal in the ruins of coastal cities. "They may have better technology," Mike told his soldiers, "but we're fighting for our home." The tide began to turn when Dr. Cooper activated the disruptor. The device sent a specially tuned energy wave that interfered with Duraxian ship communications. Suddenly, their coordinated attack fell into confusion. "What's happening?" Jarek demanded as orders failed to reach his ships. "Restore communications." Admiral Harrison saw her opportunity. "All ships, focus fire on the enemy flagship. Coalition allies, move in now." From behind Earth's moon, ships from the newly formed coalition of free worlds appeared. They had been hiding, waiting for this moment to join the battle. The Vengeance * moved directly toward the Eternal Flame *. The two massive ships exchanged devastating fire as they closed distance. "Prepare boarding teams," Admiral Harrison ordered. "We're taking their command ship." The battle for Earth had reached its climax. The Grand Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from the 7 council species shouted across the room at each other. Gone was the calm, ordered discussion that had been their way for centuries. "How could the humans have hidden such military power?" demanded the Veldari representative, her blue skin flushed with anger. "Your intelligence agencies assured us they were contained." High Counselor Drav slammed his scaled fist on the table. "Enough. This bickering solves nothing. We must present a united front against the human aggression." Aggression. A soft voice cut through the noise. It belonged to Verix, the representative of the Kelvari, the oldest of the council species. Was it not the council that attacked human colonies without provocation? The chamber fell silent. The Kelvari rarely spoke during these sessions, but when they did, all listened. The humans were developing technologies forbidden by council law. Drav insisted. "Defensive technologies," Verix corrected. "And now we see why they felt the need for such defenses. The council has made a grave error in judgment." While the council argued, Commander Kevin Young of the UDF sat in a small private meeting room on a neutral space station. Across from him was Celia, a high-ranking diplomat of the Veldari species. "My government wishes to open separate peace negotiations with Earth," Celia said quietly. "We did not approve of the attacks on your colonies." Kevin studied her carefully. "The Veldari are founding members of the council. Why break ranks now?" "Because we recognize a losing position when we see one," she replied honestly. "The Direxians and the hegemony pushed for your eradication from the beginning. They feared how quickly humans adapt and innovate. The rest of us were persuaded. And now? Now we see they were right to fear you, but wrong in how to address that fear." She slid a data device across the table. "This contains information about council military positions, communications protocols, and," she hesitated, "evidence that certain council members have been planning your elimination for years." Kevin took the device. "Why are you really helping us?" Celia's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "The council has ruled for too long without challenge. Some species, not part of the 7, have been oppressed for centuries. Your resistance has given them hope, and us perspective." Across council space, the effects of human victories were spreading. Minor species, long dominated by council rule, began to speak out. Some offered supplies to human forces. Others provided intelligence about council movements. On the captured Arcturus Command Center, Commander Ryan Martinez received a surprising transmission. "We're being hailed by representatives from the Celti Confederation," his communications officer reported. "They're requesting permission to send an envoy." The Celti were not council members but had always been subservient to council rule. Their sudden desire to speak with humans was unexpected. "Grant permission," Ryan ordered, "but standard security protocols." Hours later, he sat across from 3 Celti representatives. "We wish to form an alliance with humanity," said the lead Celti, a tall, slender being with iridescent skin. "For too long, the council has restricted our development, taken our resources, and limited our expansion. We are not alone in this feeling." "How many others?" Ryan asked. 17 species have formed a coalition. We were waiting for an opportunity to challenge council authority. Your success has provided that opportunity." Similar meetings were happening throughout known space. Species that had long chafed under council rule now saw humans as potential liberators. Within days, Earth had formed preliminary alliances with 23 non-council species. They called themselves the Coalition of Free Worlds. In the council chambers, the unity that had held for centuries was crumbling. "The Veldari are withdrawing their military support," announced a messenger, causing another uproar. "The Kelvari abstain from further action against humans," said the representative calmly. Drav looked around the chamber in disbelief. Only the Diraxian and hegemony representatives still stood firmly with him. 3 of the 7 council species were now refusing to continue the conflict. "Then we will act alone," declared Jarek, Supreme Commander of the Doraxian forces. "We have the strongest military. We will show these humans their proper place." He stood tall, his red scales gleaming under the chamber lights. "I am mobilizing the Grand Doraxian fleet. We will strike at the heart of human territory, Earth itself." The remaining council members watched in silence as Jarek stormed out, his decision made. The final confrontation was about to begin. Captain Ryan Martinez stood on the bridge of the Defiance *, the largest human warship ever built. Through the main viewport, he could see the Centauri Gateway Station. It was massive, a hub of council activity that controlled travel routes to 15 important worlds. "All ships in position," reported his communications officer. "Strike teams ready." Ryan nodded. "Send the signal. Operation Retribution begins now." Across 3 different star systems, human forces attacked council facilities simultaneously. The element of surprise was complete. The council had never seen these ships before. They had no idea such vessels even existed. At the Centauri Gateway, 3 human destroyers appeared from hyperspace directly behind the station's defensive line. Before the council ships could turn to face this unexpected threat, the destroyers opened fire with weapons the council had never encountered. Quantum destabilizer cannons firing, called the weapons officer on the Defiance *. Direct hit on their main shield generators. The station's shields, thought to be impenetrable, flickered and died. Council defenders scrambled to respond, but they were trained to fight enemies who used familiar tactics and technology. The humans did neither. Landing craft away, Ryan announced. "All ships provide covering fire." Smaller vessels shot out from the Defiance *, each carrying 30 elite soldiers. They headed straight for the station's docking bays. Major Heather Jones led the first team to breach the station. "Move fast," she ordered her soldiers. "Secure the control center and the communications hub." Council security forces were quickly overwhelmed. They had expected humans to fight like other council species, with caution and by the rules of warfare the council had established centuries ago. Instead, the humans fought with a ferocity and adaptability that left the defenders confused and demoralized. "Control center secured," Heather reported after 30 minutes of intense fighting. "We have control of station operations." Similar scenes played out at the Rigel Supply Depot and the Arcturus Command Center. In all 3 locations, human forces achieved their objectives within hours. In the council chambers, urgent messages arrived from across their territory. "Impossible," said High Counselor Drav as he viewed the reports. "These human ships, where did they come from? How did they bypass our early warning systems? Their weapons technology is beyond what we thought they possessed," added another counselor with alarm. "They're using principles our scientists theorized but never successfully implemented." At the Arcturus Command Center, Lieutenant Grace Foster led a special team with one specific mission: find and rescue Ambassador Peterson, who had been detained when the attacks on human colonies began. "Cell Block 7, said one of her soldiers, checking the station map. 2 levels down. They moved swiftly through the corridors, dealing with any resistance they encountered. When they reached the detention area, they found it lightly guarded. The council forces had never expected an attack here, deep in their territory. Grace blasted open the cell door and found Ambassador Peterson sitting calmly on a bench. "You took your time," he said with a slight smile. "Sorry about that, sir," Grace replied. "Traffic was terrible." As they made their way back to the extraction point, Peterson asked, "How bad was it?" "The attacks on our colonies." Grace's face darkened. "Bad enough that we're here now. The council crossed a line that they can't uncross." News of the human victory spread quickly through council space. Civilian populations on council worlds who had been told that humans were primitive and easily controlled now saw images of advanced human warships capturing key military installations. Panic began to set in. How could this happen? Demanded a Saurian general to his intelligence officers. You assured us the humans had limited military capability. They hid their true strength, one officer replied. They showed us what they wanted us to see. On the Defiance Captain Martinez received reports from all 3 battle sites. The operations had succeeded beyond expectations. Human casualties were minimal, and all primary objectives had been achieved. Send word to Earth, he ordered. Phase 1 of Operation Retribution is complete. The Council now knows we can strike them anywhere. In the Council chambers, an emergency session was called to address what they now officially termed the human threat. For the first time in centuries, real fear could be seen on the faces of these ancient rulers of the stars. They had believed humans would be easy to control. They had been wrong. The emergency session of Earth's United Nations was filled with anger and fear. Videos of the Council attacks played on large screens. The images of dead civilians and burning colonies fueled the rage of every person present. They attacked without warning, said the President of the United Nations. 3 colonies hit at the same time. Thousands dead. This was not a misunderstanding. This was planned. The vote took less than 10 minutes. Earth officially declared war against the Galactic Council. In a secret facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Paul Jackson stood before a group of high-ranking military officers. The room was silent as he entered his command codes into a special terminal. "Computer, activate Protocol Omega," he said clearly. The large screen on the wall lit up with a map of the solar system. Hidden dots appeared throughout the map, places where humans had secretly built military bases and shipyards. For the past 5 years, Admiral Jackson explained, we have been preparing for this possibility. The Council never knew our true production capacity. We showed them only what we wanted them to see. The screen changed to show images of ships, warships far more advanced than anything Earth had officially acknowledged. The Vengeance class destroyers, Jackson continued. 20 of them, hidden in the asteroid belt. The Thunder class carriers. 12, concealed in the moons of Jupiter. And our flagship, the Defiance . The image changed to show a massive battleship unlike anything humans had ever built before. One of the generals spoke up. How did you hide all this from the Council observers? Admiral Jackson smiled grimly. We didn't hide our shipyards. We hid what they were really building. The Council saw exactly what we wanted them to see: cargo ships and small patrol vessels. Meanwhile, our real fleet was being assembled piece by piece in locations the Council never thought to monitor. In another facility, this one hidden in the mountains of what was once called Colorado, scientists Olivia Wright and Daniel Garcia prepared to reveal their own secret. The Council has always believed they have superior weapons technology. Olivia explained to the gathered military leaders. They're wrong. Daniel stepped forward and activated a holographic display. For years, we've been developing technologies that we kept hidden from Council knowledge. This is the quantum destabilizer cannon. A hologram showed a weapon system that could be mounted on ships of various sizes. It bypasses enemy shields completely, Daniel explained. And this is just one of many weapons we've developed. Olivia added, the Council thinks humans are less advanced. They don't understand how quickly we adapt and innovate when threatened. Throughout Earth and the inner colonies, military bases hummed with activity. Soldiers and pilots who had been quietly training for years were now called to action. Veterans were recalled to service, and new volunteers lined up outside recruitment centers. In the UDF headquarters, General William Carter addressed the military leadership. On a large tactical display, he outlined Operation Retribution. The Council expects us to be defensive, to protect what remains of our territory, he explained. Instead, we will strike first, hard and fast, at 3 key Council outposts simultaneously. He pointed to locations on the star map. The Centauri Gateway Station controls access to 15 Council worlds. The Rigel Supply Depot contains fuel and weapons for their central fleet, and the Arcturus Command Center coordinates their military operations in this sector. If we can capture even one of these targets, we can disrupt Council operations significantly, he continued. If we take all three, we change the course of this war before it really begins. One of the admirals looked concerned. The Council outnumbers us significantly. In ships, yes, General Carter agreed, but not in determination. They killed our people. They attacked without provocation. Every human fighting in this war knows what's at stake. Across the room, heads nodded in agreement. The Council believes they understand humanity, General Carter said. They think they know our capabilities and our resolve. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Throughout human space, the message went out. The Council crossed the line. Now humanity will show them exactly what that means. Ambassador Eric Peterson straightened his tie as he prepared to enter the Council chambers. After the Europa Station attack, tensions between Earth and the Galactic Council were at an all-time high. His job today was to try one last attempt at peaceful negotiation. "The Council will see you now," said a small, green-skinned aide. Eric nodded and walked into the grand oval room, where the 7 Council members sat in elevated chairs, looking down at him. He felt like he was on trial. "Honorable Council members," Eric began, "I come seeking explanation and justice for the unprovoked attack on our Europa research station. 53 innocent scientists and support staff were killed." High Counselor Drav's reptilian face showed no emotion. "Your scientists were developing technology that violated our regulations. We have been clear about the restrictions placed on human military development." "They were working on defensive shields," Eric countered, "for protection, not aggression." Another counselor, Mira of the Veldari, leaned forward. "This meeting is not about your lost station, Ambassador. The Council has new directives for Earth and its colonies." A holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed a list of new restrictions that made Eric's stomach sink. "All human military installations will now require Council oversight," Drav announced. "Your expansion beyond your current territories is halted until further notice. Any ship traveling outside approved zones will be considered hostile." "This is unacceptable," Eric said firmly. "Earth will not surrender its sovereignty or security to." He was interrupted by an aide who rushed in and whispered something to Counselor Drav. The reptilian's eyes narrowed, and he made a quick gesture to the guards. "Ambassador Peterson, you will remain here as our guest," Drav said coldly. "For your own safety, of course." "What's happening?" Eric demanded as guards moved to block his exit. On the other side of the galaxy, Sergeant Lisa Chen crouched behind a broken wall on Wolf 359, the third human colony. Around her, buildings burned, and the sounds of screaming filled the air. Council ships had appeared without warning 2 hours ago and began bombing the civilian settlement. "How many survivors have you counted?" she asked the young civilian man beside her. "Maybe 40, he replied, his face streaked with dirt and blood. Most people were at the Central Market when the attack began. Lisa gripped her rifle tighter. She and 5 other Marines had been stationed on Wolf 359 as a small security detail. Now they were all that stood between the colonists and complete destruction. "Mason, Cooper, get those people to the underground storage facility," she ordered 2 of her Marines. "Sam, you're with me. We need to reach the communications center." Similar attacks were happening simultaneously on the human colonies at Proxima Centauri and Tau Ceti. On Proxima, the entire colony defense force was wiped out in the first wave. At Tau Ceti, over 2,000 civilians died when the Council ships targeted the residential domes. Lisa and Private Sam Kelly fought their way through the burning colony to reach the communications building. Inside, they found the equipment mostly intact. "We need to send a message to Earth," Lisa said, working quickly at the console. "They need to know what happened here." Sam stood guard at the door. "They're calling it preemptive security measures on their broadcast channels. I heard it on the emergency band." Lisa's fingers flew across the keyboard as she uploaded security footage from the colony's cameras. "Well, Let's show Earth what their security measures really look like. Just as she finished the transmission, the building shook from a nearby explosion. We need to move, Sam warned. They're getting closer. Back on Earth, in the UDF headquarters, the emergency transmission from Wolf 359 played on the main screen. Military leaders watched in horror as council ships deliberately targeted civilian areas. This is happening at all 3 outer colonies, reported an officer. We've lost contact with Proxima entirely. Ta City reports massive casualties. General William Carter's face was grim. And Ambassador Peterson? No contact since he entered the council chambers 6 hours ago. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. This wasn't just an isolated incident or a misunderstanding. This was a coordinated attack. They've crossed the line, General Carter said quietly. Then, more firmly, send the emergency alert to all UDF facilities. Authorization code Omega 7. As of this moment, we are at war with the Galactic Council. Across Earth and the inner colonies, sirens began to sound. 5 years had passed since humanity's first meeting with the Galactic Council. Earth's colonies were growing, but with each passing month, the Council imposed new rules and limits on human expansion. Amy Barnes frowned at her computer screen inside the research lab on Mars Colony. As lead science officer for the United Defense Force, she had been tracking resource shipments across human territories for months. The numbers didn't add up. Frank, take a look at this. She called to Commander Frank Walsh, who was visiting the facility on inspection. Frank walked over, his military boots clicking on the polished floor. What am I looking at? These are mineral extraction figures from our mining operations in the Alpha Centauri system. Amy pointed to a chart. And these are the official shipment records back to Earth and our colonies. Frank's eyes narrowed. There's a 15% difference. Exactly. For 3 straight months, resources are leaving our territories, but they're not going to any human settlements. Amy pushed her glasses up. I think the Council is taking them. Frank wasn't surprised. They've been limiting our tech development too. Every time we make a breakthrough in weapons or shield technology, they show up with new safety regulations that just happen to block our progress. The door to the lab opened, and Carl Weber, the communications officer, rushed in. His face was pale. We just lost contact with the Europa Research Station, he said, his voice shaking. All signals went dead about 20 minutes ago. Frank straightened up immediately. Any sign of trouble before communications cut out? Nothing, Carl replied. They were in the middle of their regular data transmission when everything stopped. Within hours, the UDF dispatched an investigation team. Lieutenant Kate Howard led the small crew aboard the fast response vessel Falcon *, approaching Europa, announced the pilot as they neared Jupiter's icy moon. Kate's heart sank as the station came into view. My God. The research facility was destroyed. Parts of it were still burning despite the vacuum of space. Debris floated in a wide arc around the moon. Scan for life signs, Kate ordered, though she already knew the answer. None detected, Lieutenant, replied the sensor operator. But I am picking up residual energy signatures. These are consistent with weapons fire, high-powered energy weapons. Not pirates, then, Kate said grimly. Pirates used crude weapons, not advanced energy cannons. Anyone still in the area? No ships detected, but the operator paused. There's an intact section of the station. The security center. It might have recorded what happened. Kate led a team in spacesuits to the floating remnant of the station. The security center was designed to survive catastrophic failure, and its data cores were shielded against damage. Back on the Falcon *, they reviewed the footage. The images made Kate's blood run cold. The video showed ships of Council design approaching the station. There was no warning, no communication. They simply opened fire. The security cameras caught glimpses of station personnel running, some trying to reach escape pods that were quickly destroyed by precision shots. Why would they do this? asked one of Kate's team members. The station was just a research facility. There were 53 people on board. Kate didn't answer. She was focused on a particular frame of the video. She zoomed in on one of the attacking ships. It bore the emblem of the Saurian military, one of the leading council species. "Send this back to Earth immediately," she ordered. "Highest priority, direct to UDF command." When the council representatives were confronted, they didn't deny the attack. Instead, they claimed they were addressing a threat to galactic stability. "Your researchers were conducting experiments that violated council directives," stated the Saurian ambassador to Earth. "We were forced to intervene." The truth was simpler. The Europa station had been developing new shield technology that would have given human ships better protection. The council didn't want humans to advance too quickly. At UDF headquarters, Frank Walsh reviewed the evidence Amy Barnes had gathered along with the Europa station footage. "They're not just limiting us," he said to the assembled military leaders. "They're actively working against us, taking our resources, destroying our research, keeping us weak." "But why?" someone asked. Amy spoke up. "Because they're afraid of us. Humans advance faster than they expected. They're used to species that take centuries to develop what we've done in decades." Frank nodded grimly. "And they're going to keep pushing us back unless we do something about it." Little did they know, the council was already planning their next move against humanity. Captain John Miller stood tall on the bridge of the Intrepid Asterisk, Earth's finest diplomatic vessel. The year was 2157, and humanity had finally achieved what their ancestors had only dreamed of: traveling between the stars. Through the main viewport, John watched as the massive space station of the Galactic Council came into view. It shimmered like a jewel against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars. "Approaching Council Station Alpha." "We'll dock in 15 minutes, Captain," said Officer Susan Lee, her fingers dancing across the navigation controls. John nodded. "Alert the diplomatic team. Make sure everyone understands protocol." This meeting had been years in the making. Humans had discovered faster-than-light travel only 20 years ago, and in that time, they had established colonies on a handful of planets in nearby star systems. Then came first contact with the Arcanian scouts, who informed Earth about the existence of the Galactic Council, 7 advanced species who collectively governed interstellar affairs. "Nervous, Captain?" asked Ben Clark, the ship's security chief, who appeared at John's side. "Let's just say I'm cautiously optimistic," John replied with a slight smile. "We're new kids in a very old neighborhood." The Intrepid Asterisk docked smoothly with the station. John led the human delegation through the airlock, where they were greeted by aliens of various shapes and sizes. The delegation included scientists, military officers, and politicians, Earth's finest representatives. Their guide was a tall, blue-skinned being named Selter, who spoke perfect English thanks to advanced translation technology. "The council awaits you in the Grand Chamber," Selter said. "They are eager to meet the newest spacefaring race." John noticed how the other aliens in the corridors stared at the humans, some with curiosity, others with what looked like disdain. He kept his diplomatic smile firmly in place, but made mental notes of everything. The Grand Chamber was enormous, with a ceiling that seemed to display the entire galaxy in miniature. 7 elevated platforms held the council members, one from each of the founding species. They looked down at the human delegation with expressions John couldn't quite read. "Humans of Earth," spoke the central figure, a reptilian being with iridescent scales. "I am High Counselor Drav of the Saurians. We welcome you to Galactic Society." What followed was hours of formal introductions and diplomatic speeches. John noticed that while the words were welcoming, the tone was often condescending. "Your species has progressed remarkably quickly," said Counselor Ectry, a crystalline being whose voice sounded like chimes. "Though you have much to learn about galactic stability." Another counselor, a gaseous entity contained in a floating sphere, added, "We have observed your wars and conflicts. Such behavior must be tempered if you wish to join civilized space. John stepped forward when it was his turn to speak. On behalf of Earth and all human colonies, we thank the Council for this welcome. We come seeking friendship and knowledge, offering our unique perspectives in return. When the formal meeting ended, John and diplomat Maria Rodriguez were invited to a smaller chamber for more direct talks. The Council has voted, High Counselor Drav announced. Earth will be granted probationary status within Council space. Maria frowned slightly. Probationary status. A standard procedure for new species, explained another counselor. You will have limited rights to establish trade and colonies within defined sectors. Council observers will monitor your activities to ensure compliance with our regulations. John noticed the restrictions buried within the agreement. Limits on military vessels, requirements to share technological developments, restricted access to certain star systems. Later, back on the Intrepid Asterisk, John recorded his report for Earth's United Defense Force. First contact with the Galactic Council appears promising on the surface, he said into the secure recorder. But I sensed underlying tensions. They view us as children at best, potential threats at worst. They granted us access to their community, but with significant restrictions. He paused. I recommend cautious cooperation while we learn more about these species and their true intentions. Something tells me there's much they aren't telling us. As the Intrepid Asterisk pulled away from the station to begin its journey home, John looked back at the glittering structure. He couldn't shake the feeling that humanity's place in the galaxy was going to be far more complicated than anyone had imagined.